So this is our January Lunch and Learn for the New Jersey Doula Learning Collaborative. The New Jersey Doula Learning Collaborative exists as a statewide entity to provide information and continuing education and ongoing support by doulas for doulas to create sustainable practice in the doula community. So we have lunch and learns, which are continued learning opportunities. We host doula trainings. We help connect people with doula trainings. We have quarterly hub meetings where we get together and talk in person about this doula life. And we have our quarterly doulas and desserts in North, South, and Central Jersey, where we get together, we share snacks, we share support. And in the upcoming quarter, our theme is going to be hands-on labor support. So our upcoming events, please come because we're going to be practicing some hands-on labor support. I'm going to make some gluten-free chocolate chip cookies, and it'll be a good time. So working with backup, every doula at any time needs to be prepared to lift out, right? That's kind of what our lives look like. Any day, anytime, everything stops. You get that call. Hey, we're heading to the hospital. It's time for the baby to get here. We need you now. I know in my world, this looks like making sure I have a sitter to pick the kiddo up from school and someone to be here overnight if I'm not here, and someone to take care of the morning things when that needs to be done, and that I always have at least one thing in the freezer that can be prepared for dinner at any given time, because what if I lift out for 24 hours? But doulas, what do we do if suddenly you can't, right? Because life happens. Of course, I would hope that someone always has a backup planned if you know that you have a significant event coming up, you know that you have a time that you're going to be away, that there's going to be time that you're traveling or that you'll be farther away from home and not able to respond as quickly. And during those times, it's always essential that we have a backup at the ready, that we have someone who can take that call and show up for us. But what about when you've got nothing going on at all? I know some doulas who've said, well, I'll take on a client if I don't have anything else that I'm expecting to happen. I don't have anyone else's due date happening anytime soon. But picture speaks 1,000 words. And Tamaya, if you don't mind stopping the sharing of the slides, I'm going to share a picture. I'm calling this picture Why to Have Backup. One of you may have seen this before. This was a day in July of 2021 when I was in Atlantic City. I was interviewing students who had applied for doula scholarships. And this is my car. This is my little blue Toyota. And all of that around my little blue Toyota is quicksand. Now, I thought, really, I did. I really, really thought that quicksand was made up. Y'all, I thought quicksand was really only in the movies and that we didn't, I mean, who's ever really seen quicksand, right? Except in certain parts of New Jersey, specifically the Pine Barrens, where the ground is made of sand, if there's a very heavy rainstorm, like the flood that had happened just a couple of days before this picture was taken, combined with the vibration of a car on a sand road, sand will fluidize. It'll turn into quicksand and it will appear to be solid. Now, what was I even doing on this sand road, right? That might be a valid question. What the heck was I even doing here? Well, you see, it was on this day in history that Google Maps got hacked. And for about 15 minutes on that day, many people who programmed coordinates into their GPS got redirected, and the screen would appear as if you were going exactly where you wanted to be going. But in actuality, you were going somewhere else entirely, and cars all across the country were being rerouted down random dirt roads. I heard about this on the news, on the radio later that day, but I didn't need to hear about it on the news because I was one of the cars that happened to. I was in Atlantic City, New Jersey. I had someone admitted in a hospital in Voorhees, New Jersey, but it was early in the induction process, and a good induction done well can take a couple of days. It's not a fast process. So I was in the safe zone to go interview my students that morning, and I did. And then it happened that one of the students actually was going to Blackwood, which was very close to where I was going, and she was going to catch the train. And I said, "Oh, there's absolutely no need to catch the train. I'm going that way. Come with me." And as we are driving along, just chatting amongst ourselves, I do not realize that the signs I'm seeing don't actually say Voorhees on them, that in fact, I'm heading the other direction towards Jackson, New Jersey, where I had no intention of being at all, when suddenly the GPS said, make a sharp left, and I did, and then the pavement ended, and then my whole car went whoop as it sank into quicksand. And it was at this time I got out of the car. I took, well, I got a phone call about 2 minutes after this, right before this picture was taken. Hey, Jody, guess what? My water just broke and I'm having contractions every 4 minutes. And this was out of nowhere. She'd had nothing, 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 nothing. And now contractions every 4 minutes and water just broke. And this is a second baby. So y'all know what this means. This baby's going to come and this baby's going to come quick. And here I am. I don't know where I am. My GPS says I'm 2 miles away from Voorhees. I was not. I walk 10 steps away. I turn around. I take this picture of my car. I send it to my backup. Hey, Donna, I'm a little stuck. Can you go to Voorhees for me right now? And she did. She grabbed her bag. She walked in. She said, y'all, Jody's having a little car trouble, but she's on her way and she's going to be here really soon. And in the meantime, I had texted them the same thing. Hey, I'm on my way. I'm going to be there soon, but um, I'm just a little stuck. So I'll see you when I can get there, right? My backup came in. I still made it there before the baby. Let me get to that part. I was still there before the baby, but before that, I had to call a tow truck. I called AAA. Hey, I'm stuck. I don't know where I am. And the tow truck driver said, well, I'm not going to come get you because if I take my truck down that road, I'm going to get stuck. You need to call 911. So I called 911. And I'm talking on the phone with them. And no, I don't really know where I am. And this is where my GPS says I am. And then I hear a helicopter overhead and I look up and I realize they're looking for me. I don't know where I am. This helicopter's trying to figure out where I am. And then a police officer comes and he makes fun of women drivers and me being stuck in the sand. And then he's going to take his great big old 4-wheel drive and he's going to push me out of this puddle. And y'all, I would like to show you the time one of New Jersey's finest thought that his big old SUV was going to push me out of quicksand. And what happened to Officer Froggy when he tried to jump? He was more stuck than I was. And when he called the tow truck, the same tow truck driver who refused to come get me, they had to come because it was a police officer calling him. And when that tow truck driver arrived, I'm telling you, this 19-year-old kid, braces, mullet, gets out of the tow truck, walks up to this SUV with the window rolled down and said, sir, is your 4-wheel drive on? Oh, I ask you, my friends, was Officer Froggy's 4-wheel drive on? No, it was not. And so our tow truck driver friend reached in the window of the police vehicle, hit the button on the dashboard, and Officer Froggy backed up and tore out of there because he just got showed up by a woman and a 19-year-old kid driving a tow truck. I say all of this to say was nothing particularly pressing going on in my world that day. Student interviews that I could have missed if I needed to. There were other people to take that. But this is why we always have backup. Because if I did not have someone ready to take second call for me any day, anytime, this story would have gone very, very quick, very differently, very quickly, as I would not have shown up. For the first time ever in 20 some odd years, I would not have shown up when I was called. And that happening even one time can wreck a doula's reputation. We are a service-based practice in a relationship-based profession. The integrity of our word and showing up when we say we're going to show up is all we have to build our practice on. Nobody plans for quicksand. You know what nobody else plans for? All 3 kids having chicken pox. That happened. Um, the day my oldest son's appendix ruptured, while he was in the OR, someone went into labor. The day that I broke a metatarsal, I wasn't doing anything interesting. It's not even a good story. I was walking across my own kitchen and kicked a step stool that had lived in that spot for 5 years that I've managed to walk past 1,000 times and never kicked. But that day I kicked it, I broke a metatarsal, and as I'm going to the emergency room, I get not 1, but 2 calls from people who think that they are in labor on that day at that time. We always have backup. Always have backup. Nobody plans a ruptured appendix. Nobody plans a broken metatarsal. And certainly nobody ever plans for a Google Map hack and quicksand. But life happens, right? We see that in doula work in birth all the time. We can't predict birth. We can't predict our lives. We can't predict what our lives are going to look like. So let's talk about arranging backup. How do you do that? What does your service agreement say? In our call on service agreements, if you haven't watched our call on service agreements, please visit our YouTube. We did a lunch and learn on creating a good service agreement a few months ago. And our service agreement template is on our NJDLC website, which you can look at njdlc.org. On that website is our doula toolkit, and we have our service agreement template right in there, along with the video of how to fill it out. So in the backup arrangement, part of our service agreement, our language says that a backup of our choosing will be present in the event that we have a personal emergency, 2 labors at the same time, or events that are beyond the circumstances of our control. I have learned that it's important to specify that it is a backup of the doula's choosing and not a backup of the client's choosing, because the relationship that you have with your backup is for you. In my practice, I need to know that my backup is someone that I know, that my backup is someone that I trust, that my backup is someone I know is going to answer their phone if I call. That's extraordinarily important, because any day, anytime, if I need to lift out, I need someone who's going to lift out for me. I have had clients ask about interviewing my backup. Your mileage may vary. I always share my backup's phone number as soon as a service agreement is signed. That's really important. As soon as a service agreement is signed, I share my backup's contact information, and I say, here is Donna's phone number. She welcomes you to call her at any time, and I encourage you to call her sometime in the next week so that you have a conversation voice to voice, so that should you ever have the kind of emergency that means that you need to call her right away, it's not going to be the first time that you've spoken. So everybody calls the backup, everybody talks to the backup, and in my practice, I assign, in some cases, I assign a different backup per client, but each client has their go-to backup that they would call. I also have backup for the backup. If it should happen that my backup cannot answer for any reason, she has her own backup, and I always have a second person that I could call if I needed to. But my primary backup is my go-to. Her information is shared as soon as the service agreement is signed. My client has that information. I do not, however, have my clients interview my backup prior to hiring me. That's not fair to my backup. That is not a fair demand of her time to interview with my client who is not hiring her. My backup is there for my safety and my peace of mind should I need her. But I do encourage contact with my backup after service agreement has been signed. I've had clients ask if they can choose a backup, and if they want to interview a secondary doula, that they would then pay to be a second call for them if they needed that. I would welcome them to do that, but I don't find that to be necessary as I arrange to provide backup if needed. And usually there's no reason that I can anticipate that I would need backup. It would only be if something were happening that was beyond the scope of control. Now, in a shared call situation, this might look a little bit different. Let's say that you and a colleague are running a practice together and you're on call Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Your colleague is on call Tuesday, Thursday. In that case, then you would arrange your prenatal visits so that each doula had the opportunity to meet with and interact the families that they might be serving because of a shared call schedule. Or let's say that Jane, the doula, knows for sure that she has a graduation that she's attending on January 15th. So months ahead of time in November of the year before, Jane booked backup for June 15th because that's the day she knows she's not going to be available. Now, that gives Jane the time to make sure that that backup's contact information has been shared with every person that she's on call for during that time. And also that opportunity has happened for that backup to meet with those people. In cases like this, it might be appropriate for a doula to call the backup from a prenatal visit. I've done this before. After I've done a birth plan assessment with someone, I've called. Hey, Donna, I'm sitting here with Joanne and Eric, and I want to talk about their birth plan with you for a few minutes so that you're part of this conversation here. I'm just going to run through it with you, right? Maybe start a group chat with the backup on it as well, so that she's kept in the loop the entire time. So that's two different ways to arrange backup. One, to call if there's an emergency, and one, to plan on being on call during a time that you are aware that you would not be available. How you pay your backup may look different from one arrangement to the next. I can give examples from my practice, from my agency, and from things that I've seen work for individual doulas. So, scenario one, two full-time doulas may have a reciprocal arrangement with one another. I have a colleague that I've worked with for years. If I have a dentist appointment, she's the person who would be called during that time. If I have a parent-teacher meeting at school, she's the person who will answer the phone for the hour that I might be there. And I do the same for her. Her daughter's dance recitals, I'm there. Her religious holidays, I'm there. For those short windows of time when we may need to call each other. For that kind of arrangement, no money ever exchanges hands because we would be trading the same $50 back and forth constantly, and there's really no point in that. For an arranged backup, one arrangement that I've seen, if our primary doula is the person on call and our secondary doula was called in the event of an emergency, one backup arrangement that I've seen work for a lot of doulas is if I call you at all to leave your house, I'm going to pay you a base rate of X amount of dollars. For one of my backups, that's $100. If I call you at all in this window of time, I'm going to write you a check for $100 just for answering your phone. Then above and beyond that, it's $50 an hour until I get there, up to half of the fee that I charged for that birth. It's capped at half. Once they get to half, we split it 50-50. Even if they're there for longer than that amount of time, they get that half. If it's a time, for example, that a doula knows that they're going to be away, someone's traveling for a weekend, they've built the relationship between their backup and their client, there might be an agreement that there would be a flat fee for being on call that weekend at all, whatever amount the doula and backup agreed on. So $200 for that weekend just to thank you for being on call. And then up to half of the birth if you get called to the birth during the time that I'm away, with that retainer applied toward that total. So if they go to the whole birth and the doula is not there at all, primary doula is not there at all, backup doula gets half the fee. In a shared call situation, that might look a little different. Sometimes that's structured like the deposit, which for a lot of doulas is half of what they charge for the birth, is split by the two doulas who will be sharing call. And then the second half goes to whoever got the call that day. So different backup arrangements can work different ways. You might also choose different backups for different clients. I had one backup for years who was so very good at supporting people who had really high anxiety levels. She's a midwife now, and she's equally good in this field as a midwife. She's just so good with people who had high anxiety levels. She was my go-to. If I had anyone whose anxiety was particularly high and I needed backup, that was always going to be the person that I was going to call. You can choose different styles of care from your colleagues for who you think would be a good fit for your client. You don't have to have the same backup every time, but it is a good idea to have a backup arrangement relationship with someone at all times. It is really bordering on practicing outside of our code of ethics to not have any backup arranged at all, because the families who are calling us are relying on us for support and relying on us to provide someone to stand confidently in our place should we be unable to do so. There are different ways to meet backup doulas. Come to Doulas and Desserts. NJDLC has quarterly social events. Our Doulas and Desserts events happen in Camden, in Atlantic City, in Trenton, and in Montclair. Check out our website, njdlc.org. You can also check our socials out, New Jersey Doula Learning Collaborative on Facebook and on Insta and on LinkedIn. We always have our events posted there, and our fee-for-service, our Doulas and Desserts, and our other events are always on there. Come to these events and meet backup, or go on our Care Forest. Care Forest is an app that we use that has created a forum, again, by doulas, for us to chat with one another, bounce questions off of each other, go to one another for feedback, share information, share events that are coming up. And it's a great place to reach out and say, hey, I'm in Newark. I need backup for December. Who's available during that time? When can we get together? We're here for you for exactly that. Where is Care Forest? On Instagram or Facebook? Neither. It is its own thing. It is through an app called The Mighty. So download The Mighty and you'll find Care Forest on there. We also had a previous Lunch and Learn about Care Forest, so you can check that out too if you want. That one's on our YouTube as well. So come to our events, use our Care Forest, come to our socials, meet our doulas, meet your backup, and take it from there. I want to check in on some of the upcoming events that we do have coming up now that I've mentioned them. With the New Jersey Doula Learning Collaborative, one of the things that we give support to is the process of enrollment in New Jersey Family Care. As of 2021, Governor Murphy wrote it into being that New Jersey Family Care covers doula services for participating families. We currently have a shortage of doulas in New Jersey who are enrolled in New Jersey Family Care, so part of the work that we're doing as the DLC is supporting that process. We have live in-person fee-for-service support events that happen every month. We also have regular fee-for-service support events that happen on Saturdays in Camden twice a month. We have office hours right here online, Mondays and Wednesdays, Mondays from 11:30 to 1:30 and Wednesdays from 1 to 3, where people can come on your laptop, hop onto office hours, get on with me or someone else from our team, and we'll walk you through what you need to complete your fee-for-service application, the documents that you need to bring with you, and we'll even sit there and do your application with you when that time comes as well. Our North Jersey fee-for-service is scheduled for this weekend from 10 to 12 on Saturday. We're going to be doing that one virtually. It looks like we're going to have some weather on Saturday of this week. So we are preemptively deciding to do that one virtually. You can register through the Eventbrite on our website if you wish to come to that one. We have a forum happening tomorrow. You can also sign up through our website tomorrow. We have a forum happening at 11 o'clock from 11 to 12:30 with Jill Wadnick, who is a data analyst for Montclair University, talking about the history of doula legislation in New Jersey. I don't know if y'all heard, we had a bill pass the Senate in New Jersey last week. It's A5379. A5379, which was under A4119. A5379 which is now a law, it was signed last Monday, says that hospitals have to create and publish their policies about doulas in a way that is public facing, and also that doulas are patient selected. This is why this is huge. This means no more stopping doulas at the security desk and asking for their certification before they can go in. This means that if someone in the hospital says, Lauren is my doula, and you walk in and you say, hi, I'm Lauren, I'm the doula, you are. Therefore, ta-da, you go in, the end, as doula, not as an additional support person. So we hope that this really works to increase access to doulas by families who want them and access for doulas in the hospital. And Jill is going to come have a conversation with us about how we got to this point, what legislation for doulas has looked like in New Jersey, and what our next steps are. We want all of our doulas in on this. We want to elevate the voices of the doulas to the action that's happening at the state level so that we are heard and that the steps that are taken regarding doulas are for doulas, by doulas, to help us do what we are doing for the families that we support. So that's tomorrow at 11 o'clock. We also have a fee-for-service support session in Central Jersey. That's going to be in our Trenton office on February the 8th at 6 p.m. And another on Saturday the 10th in South Jersey in Camden from noon to